Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we're diving into the bigger picture surrounding AMC and why some investors believe the stock has the potential to revisit its all-time highs. There are several moving pieces right now: price action, off-exchange volume, short positioning, and structural pressure. And when you connect them together, you start to see why confidence hasn't faded among long-term holders. Let's break it down step by step and really understand what's happening beneath the surface. First, consider this. AMC has recently been able to move 8%, 9%, even 11% in a single session, while more than 60% of its volume was trading off-exchange. That detail matters. When such a large portion of trading activity is routed away from lit exchanges, it directly impacts visible price discovery. Off-exchange trading, often associated with dark pool activity, can absorb buy orders without allowing them to fully influence the displayed bid and ask on public markets. So if AMC is capable of rising nearly double digits in a session despite that structural headwind, it raises an important question. What would price look like if all of that demand were reflected transparently on lit exchanges? When we've analyzed previous runs, a pattern appears. On days when AMC posts strong percentage gains, large buy orders frequently show up in off-exchange routing, while larger visible sell orders tend to hit the lit exchange. That creates an imbalance in perception. Selling pressure becomes more visible and directly impacts price quotes, while buying pressure is partially muted. In other words, even when demand is strong, it doesn't always fully translate into upward momentum the way traditional supply-demand models would suggest. And yet, despite that structural imbalance, AMC still pushes higher on certain days. That tells us something important. It tells us that underlying demand is strong enough to overcome at least part of the suppression effect. If price can climb nearly 10% under those conditions, it suggests that control is not absolute. It suggests cracks are forming in the ability to contain upward movement. Now, let's talk about the psychology and mechanics of a potential short squeeze. In any heavily shorted equity, there is always an unspoken tension among short sellers. As long as price remains manageable, they can hold positions and manage risk, but when price begins to climb rapidly, the risk shifts dramatically. Margin requirements increase, losses compound, and the decision each short seller faces becomes very simple: close now with a defined loss or risk being forced to close later at a much worse price. Here's the key point. There are no alliances when liquidation risk appears. The first short seller to close may survive. The last ones out could face catastrophic losses. That dynamic creates a prisoner's dilemma among short funds. No one wants to be the last to cover, but no one wants to trigger the squeeze either. Eventually, someone blinks. A squeeze does not require every short to cover simultaneously. It only requires the first wave. Once a small fund or a risk-sensitive participant decides the exposure is too dangerous, that covering pushes price up. Rising price increases pressure on remaining shorts. That pressure leads to additional covering, and that's how the domino effect begins. There are multiple ways this process could ignite. A broader market correction could reduce collateral values, tightening margin availability and forcing position reductions, or price appreciation alone could push certain funds beyond their internal risk thresholds. Even a move into what might seem like modest territory, say above the mid-single digits, can become extremely uncomfortable for shorts who entered at lower levels with leverage. It's important to remember that many short positions were established during periods when bankruptcy risk seemed higher. If the company stabilizes, improves fundamentals, and maintains liquidity, the original thesis behind those shorts weakens. When the risk-reward balance shifts, disciplined risk managers reassess exposure. This is where the broader narrative matters. Why would there be so much persistent effort to suppress or manage the price of what critics often call a low-priced movie theater stock? The answer lies in asymmetrical risk. The founder and chairman of Interactive Brokers once stated publicly that in an extreme short squeeze scenario, a stock could theoretically move to extraordinary levels because short sellers must buy shares regardless of price. That isn't hype, it's structural math. A short position carries unlimited upside risk. If a large percentage of the float is tightly held and short sellers must buy shares to close, the supply-demand imbalance can become severe. Retail investors holding shares control available supply. If holders refuse to sell at lower price levels, shorts must bid higher. If sellers remain scarce, price climbs further. In theory, there is no predetermined ceiling because covering is mandatory. That's the fundamental tension. Shorts need shares, long holders control shares. If demand to close exceeds willingness to sell, price discovery accelerates upward. The only way to avoid that scenario is to prevent price momentum from building in the first place. That's why heavy off-exchange routing, visible sell walls, and constant attempts to contain upward spikes become relevant discussion points among investors. But again, here's what stands out. Even with those tactics, AMC still demonstrated the ability to post strong green days. That's not something to ignore. It suggests that suppression, if it exists, is not fully effective. Demand continues to show up. Buyers continue stepping in. And most importantly, long-term holders have not disappeared. The longer a heavily shorted stock maintains a committed shareholder base while gradually improving its operational outlook, the more pressure builds beneath the surface. Shorts rely on fatigue. They rely on holders giving up. They rely on declining fundamentals to justify positions. But if holders remain patient and the company avoids collapse, time works against short sellers. All of this builds towards the core idea. A return to previous highs is not purely speculative fantasy if structural pressure remains and supply stays tight. It doesn't mean it happens tomorrow, it doesn't mean volatility disappears, but the ingredients that once fueled explosive moves, concentrated short interest, committed retail ownership, and sudden upward catalysts are still present in various forms. And if the first short seller decides the risk is no longer worth holding, that could be the spark. From there, it becomes a race to the exit. The first out may survive, the rest may face escalating losses as price climbs. That is the inherent instability of crowded short trades. So when we see AMC rise nearly 10% on days when most of the volume is off exchange, that's not a minor detail. It's evidence that buying pressure continues to break through structural friction. It's a reminder that control is not absolute, and in markets, when control weakens in a crowded trade, momentum can shift quickly. That's why many investors continue watching closely, because beneath the daily noise, the mechanics of supply, demand, and mandatory settlement still govern the outcome.
Because beyond price action and short psychology, there are additional layers building beneath the surface, particularly in the options market, capital inflows, ETF exposure, and the broader narrative surrounding AMC. When you connect these elements, you start to see why momentum hasn't faded and why many believe pressure is still quietly accumulating. Let's begin with the options chain. Recently, we've seen notable volume building around near-the-money call strikes, particularly around the $4 level. With AMC trading not far below that range, it doesn't require a dramatic move to push those contracts into the money, and when call volume expands at key strike prices, it signals something important. Traders are positioning for upside. They are not loading up on protective puts. They are not overwhelmingly betting on downside continuation. Instead, there is growing call-side interest. When call volume increases and price approaches those streak levels, market makers who sold those calls must hedge their exposure. They typically do this by purchasing shares as the stock price rises and delta increases. That hedging activity can amplify upward price movement. That's how gamma pressure builds. It's not magic, it's mechanical. As more calls move in the money, more shares must be purchased to remain hedged. That buying can create a feedback loop. But here's where it becomes even more interesting. We've also observed investors closing put positions and rotating into calls. That's a directional shift. It reflects a changing sentiment from defensive to opportunistic. At the same time, institutions have reportedly been increasing share exposure rather than trimming it. When capital begins flowing in while float remains tightly held, supply-demand dynamics tighten. Retail investors have played a crucial role in this dynamic. For years now, a core group of holders has maintained positions despite volatility. That stability matters. If large portions of the float are not actively trading, then incremental buying pressure has a larger impact. The biggest reason AMC hasn't collapsed despite aggressive shorting is simple. Holders haven't sold in panic. supply remains limited relative to potential covering demand. Now let's